Hey, what's up guys, it's Ben from T-Rex Space Station. How's everyone doing? Not sure if you knew, but the space station's also able to time transport. So I've travelled back through time, obviously to 1997. So it's same day, but it's 1997. This is community collection questions, which I haven't done for a while. The idea of these videos is to get you to show games from your collection which you don't often talk about. It's kind of a fun way for us to all sort of have an excuse to talk about what's in our collections. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions to get you to show 5 games from your collections and talk about them, and it should be quite fun. So please post a link to your video responses in the comments below. So first up, I want you guys to show a game where you play as a criminal. Any kind of criminal. Could be a thief, a murderer, a gangster, whatever you want, go nuts. I've chosen a PS4 game for this one. The game is Yakuza Zero. This is my first introduction to the Yakuza series, and it really blew me away actually. In terms of the level of detail that they've gone to recreate parts of Japan. I've always been a little bit of a Japan fetishist. It's a place that I would just love to explore and love to go to one day, and anytime I see a video of it or a game set in it, I become really fascinated by it. And I think Yakuza Zero manages to really create an authentic recreate a Japanese city. It's a game that has an awful lot of things to do. It's like a mixture between a slapstick comedy and a really serious gangster game. It's got a lot of over-the-top action sequences, punching, beat 'em up kind of stuff, ridiculous fights with loads and loads of enemies, which is super fun. But it's also got loads of daft mini games. There's some Sega arcade games in here. You can go in the arcades and play, I think it's Outrun and some Space Harrier and stuff like that. There's loads of extra elements to it if you want to go down those avenues of like owning businesses and all sorts of stuff, gambling, and it's got a crazy level of attention to detail, a really good story. It's one where I played through the main campaign, and that took me like 60 hours doing some extra stuff, but I kind of stopped there and didn't want to go and get 100% or anything, because it's just too big, but a really fun game. Next up, an unrealistic racing game, i.e. not Gran Turismo, something where it's arcadey or kart racing or the physics are not realistic. I've gone for Sonic AllStar Racing Transform, which is a 360 game. As you know, I have been playing some Sonic Team Racing, which is the most recent one, but I would probably pick this one over that because it has a great diversity in terms of the characters you can play as. You can play as pretty much characters from most of the major Sonic and Sega games in here. You know, even got Wreck-It Ralph. You've got like the Shinobi dude from Shinobi. Can't remember what his name is, something Jack, I can't remember. And it has the cool element that you can transform into planes and boats and stuff during the races. Things change so much, so it's an incredible game. It's one that you can pick up for really cheap now, so I'd probably recommend getting that over the newer one if you haven't played any of the entries in the series, because it's super, super fun. Next question. Show me a game over multiple discs. That might be multiple CDs, might be multiple floppy disks. One of those games from back in the day where you had to fit it on multiple discs. I have chosen a very underrated RPG called Lost Odyssey, which is one of the hidden gems on the Xbox 360 if you ask me. It's a super, super long and involved JRPG, over 4 discs. I think it was 4 discs. I've got up to the last disc on it, never actually managed to get all the way through it, but nevertheless it is an incredible game if you've got the amount of time to sink into it. It's got all the JRPG goodness that you come to expect, including classic turn-based battles and random encounters. I'm not the biggest fan of random encounters in general, but I managed to cope with them in this game and actually really enjoyed it because the story is incredibly involving. It's got all the things you'd expect. I think it is a Square Enix game. I think it's Square Enix developed. All the things you expect from you know, a JRPG, including really over-the-top characters. It's very, very fun, and I picked this up for £5, and you could probably find it for something around that price. It's well worth it if you've got, as I said, a big swathe of time. Next up is a game that you play for comfort, you know, a game that you go back to time and time again because you find it relaxing. Maybe it's one that's kind of easy to beat, or one that you play for nostalgia but you don't really get bored of. I have chosen Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, which is a game that I've had, this is my original copy that I've had since I was like 10. It came with my first Game Boy, my limited edition yellow Game Boy. I have played it half to death. I can complete it pretty much every time I play it. It doesn't take a lot out of me, but it takes me right back to the past. It de-stresses me, and I find it super comforting to play through it. I'm sure you guys have got games that you go back to just like that, that you play just to go into that nostalgic place without wanting to get too stressed or busting your balls. Last but not least, a dungeon crawler. And you can interpret that however you want, but a game with dungeons in it of some description. It might be an RPG, it might be a classic tile-based game, it might be a game like Eye of the Beholder, something like that, or it might be a roguelike, which are, those are dungeon crawlers too. I've gone for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Darkness, which is a great 3DS franchise. The Mystery Dungeon franchise I think existed before Pokemon, but this is basically a dungeon crawler, roguelike elements, party building, you lose items when you die, but with the Pokemon universe. And if you're a bit of a Pokemon nutter like me, it was a much appreciated touch to have the Pokemon universe blended with something as punishing and hardcore as a roguelike Mystery Dungeon kind of game. I've always been obsessed with roguelikes ever since I was a kid playing Add-on, but it's kind of nice to see them meeting with a mainstream series like Pokemon. And I just love dungeon crawling, the random dungeons, the searching for loot, all that kind of stuff. So there you have it, there's my 5 games, guys. I would love to see what your choices are for this community collection questions video. Take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.